Welcome to Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Unlearn the Crap TV is more than just a show. It's a movement towards breaking free from the disempowering structures designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. It's about education, healing, and unlearning the detrimental beliefs that have been ingrained in society for generations. So now, please welcome the host of Unlearn the Crap TV, Kathy Baldwin.
Welcome to another episode of Unlearn the Crap and Level Up. Your soul is calling. My name is Kathy Baldwin. I am your host. I am here so excited because I was in the middle of having a conversation with somebody who I immediately asked if we could stop our conversation and we could share it with you, the audience, because this conversation was getting so juicy and so awesome and so aligned with the Unlearn the Crap message that we just stopped everything we were doing. And we are now going to continue our conversation together. As you know, Unlearn the Crap is about unlearning the conditioned responses and automatic programming that goes into our disempowerment, to our misalignment, that creates disease. But unlearning the crap is also about the societal expectations that we're all supposed to fit into a box, that we're all supposed to be vanilla, that we're all supposed to be the same. And that could not be farther from the truth. While I like vanilla, I think vanilla is a base. I think vanilla is a place that captures the essence of what is around us. As an interior designer in my previous life, we would need the vanilla to create the space for the diamonds to shine. And my guest, James Burden, we are going to have the most amazing conversation that is going to show you just how amazing all the other flavors in the box there are and how every part of what we do matters. Welcome to the conversation, James.
Thank you for having me, Kathy. I got chills in our previous pre-podcast conversation, and it just got so good. So I'm glad we're doing this off the cuff and just going for it.
Absolutely. I love that when we can capture that energy that's happening, because sometimes when I'm having pre-interview conversations, we can't replicate and duplicate the magic that was happening. And this was just so awesome that I wanted to stop and capture it right now. James, before we get too deep into our conversation, now that you know what Unlearning the Crap is about, can you please tell us what crap you needed to unlearn so that you could level up?
Oh, this is such a great question. I had a lot of crap to unlearn. I had to unlearn the crap of needing to be the speech therapist that knows stuff and starting to just meet people as a human being and instead of as an expert, and really getting into what they need instead of what I think they need. So when I was younger, I was trying to like help people speak a certain way, and now it's way different than that. It's way more about finding the way that works for them. So it's very client-centered. I had to unlearn that, and I could go. I got some other stuff I had to unlearn if you'd like to hear that, or we can move on.
However you feel called.
Okay. So one of the things I had to unlearn was this need to always be responsible and not take too many risks, and make sure the bank account is at a certain level, and don't go into debt because debt is bad. Sometimes you got to take risks. Sometimes you got to put yourself out there publicly, financially, just let it all hang out and go for it, because what you are working towards is way more meaningful than staying safe and making sure that bank account doesn't dip. So I've taken some big risks and we will see where they lead. So that was another thing I had to unlearn.
Oh, well, that unlearning that you just shared just tells me that we were making the right decision by immediately capturing this conversation because I want to know more. But before we do, James, could you please introduce yourself to the audience and tell them who you are and how you serve the world now that you've unlearned your crap and you're leveling up?
Okay, well, thank you. I'm James Burden. I'm a seasoned speech language pathologist and stuttering specialist. I help professionals and entrepreneurs who stutter speak with conviction and make effortless connection using my unstoppable voice process. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
I
Uh,
love that because on so many levels, one of them is the fact that we can either choose to accept or overcome any adversity we have in the world. But the most important thing of what I think you just said is that every single one of our voices matter. And we need to be able to find a way to get that voice out and have no limitations or barriers to that voice.
I love what you just said because it completely echoes the National Stuttering Association's mantra, which is to people who stutter that your voice matters. And if I may, for a moment, may I speak directly to your audience because I know that 1 in 100 people listening stutters. And I would love to just address
Absolutely.
them for a second. Okay. Uh,
Absolutely.
so speaking to people out there who stutter themselves or know someone who stutters, I just want to say that the stuttering isn't necessarily the real problem in itself. It's about what happens after the self-doubt, the second guessing, the
Oh,
shrinking away from opportunities. And pretty soon, stuttering isn't just affecting how you talk, it's running the whole show. So
mm,
I've worked with clients who've turned down promotions because they didn't want to have to speak in front of a team. They've ghosted interviews because they couldn't face the interview, or they've skipped weddings or even dates with people that could have been, who knows, it could have been someone, their soulmate, and they skipped it because they just couldn't bear the thought of going out and possibly stuttering in front of this person. And not because they're not capable or lovable, but because they didn't trust they could handle stuttering in the moment. But
mm.
there is a flip side, and this is what I want. This is the message I want people to hear. Speaking can get easier fast with the right tools. And then the confidence grows even faster. And fluency stops feeling like a fight. I'm not saying it's like easy or that there's a quick fix. But what I'm saying is when you are in the right group of people, when you're around other people who are working towards the same thing with a positive attitude, and um, you can actually make pretty quick gains. And even the more severe the stutter, the quicker the gains. But here's the thing: the lasting change doesn't come from controlling speech. It comes from changing how you think about stuttering. I've helped countless professionals break free, not by chasing perfect fluency, but by rewiring the way they show up. Not avoiding speaking, but just going for it, whether they're stuttering or whether they're using fluency techniques. And this is the real change I want to see. So thank you for letting me.
Yes, yes. Okay. Um, I'm so happy that you said that. I feel so excited by the way this conversation is going to go. But my very first question is unlearning the crap for me came from my own personal journey. It came from everything that I experienced with my mental health, my fibromyalgia, the breaking down of my life and who I thought I was so that I could break open. Was this path that you're on part of your own personal journey? Is that why you're so passionate about it?
The stuttering itself. I I stutter sometimes when I'm on podcasts. I have stuttered in grade 7, when I tried to ask the first girl out that I ever wanted to date. A little young, maybe grade 7, but I stuttered through that like crazy, and those experiences stuck with me. However, I wouldn't say I identify as a person who stutters. I haven't had the full lived experience that many of my clients have. But let me tell you, I have lived with shame. I have lived with everything crumbling around me, and I've come through that. And I can share that story in a minute if you'd like. But no, the stuttering, apart from a few incidences, which I think we can all resonate with, we've all done it sometimes. I don't want to say I've lived that full experience though.
Okay, so how did your journey bring you to this place? Obviously, you were soul or universally guided.
I 100% feel that. When how I got to become a fluency specialist, or a stuttering specialist, however you want to call it. It started right even before I was a speech therapist. I was in grad school. I started working, or I got invited to be a part of a practicum, which was a 10-day intensive stuttering workshop for adults. So this was my start. And I watched 10 adults go from intense stuttering to perfect fluency or close to perfect fluency in those 10 days. These guys had to work for it. I had to work for it. Like, we were doing 8 hours a day. Then they had homework. It was my job to mark the homework and make sure everyone was doing their practice, constantly using this slow, flowy way of speaking and then speeding it up to make it sound natural. Lots of evidence behind it. Worked like a charm. Amazing. I thought this is the cure. But as we know, there is no cure for stuttering. There can't be a cure for stuttering because stuttering is a normal part of the human spectrum.
Mm.
It's been recognized as a neurodiversity now, or a neurodivergence, much like ADHD, autism. Left-handedness is my favorite one. The reason I like left-handedness is because in the old days, people used to get punished for being left-handed. And now everyone looks at people like they'd be crazy to do that. And I want the same for stuttering. People shouldn't be looking at stuttering as something that's wrong with a person. It's just something that we all do, and some people do it more. And they can be helped to speak more fluently, but just because they stutter doesn't mean they're not confident, doesn't mean they don't know what they're talking about, certainly doesn't mean they're stupid. In fact, there was a couple studies to check out whether people who stutter were actually smarter than average, and the evidence didn't come back quite reliable, but that's what they're studying. They're not studying to see if they're less intelligent, but more. So this is the kind of things we need to get out there. Actually,
Cool.
I have a little masterclass, which I'll talk about at the end, which gives you more information directly for anyone who stutters or knows someone who stutters. That masterclass is more directed to the person and how we can make changes and what's going on. Rather, this is more of a conversation, but I just want to allude to that right now.
Absolutely. So I'm a parent, and my firstborn, he did not speak very early. And what happened was his nonverbal or guttural sounds that he made, I understood. And so we had developed this rhythm that came about where we just existed. And at some point, I think my son was in his third year somehow, finally took him to a speech pathologist. And the speech pathologist said to me, "We need to teach you, not him. We need to teach you." And what came about was I was not giving my son the space to speak. As a mother who was taught efficiency, the minute I first understood what my son was trying to communicate, I just went on, and I didn't give him the time or the space to allow him to to get his message out. And so I realized that his lack of speaking had nothing to do with him, but the environment that he was in. Is that kind of what you're talking about here in helping people to find their voice and the strength is being given the environment?
That is 100% what I'm talking about. Now, my program right now is aimed at adults, and the environment that we create is a safe space where people can come and make choices on how they want to approach their stutter. Do they want to work on fluency and get it like very, very smooth and be able to go to meetings and presentations and be able to like bang out a full presentation without stuttering? That's okay. It's also very much okay, and I get really excited by this one, is when people are like, I am okay to stutter openly, not with everybody, but with some friends. And when I'm stutter openly with those friends, I get some good feedback, I feel good about myself, or I stutter openly in the group that I'm creating of other people who stutter, and it starts to feel like this is not a flaw. This is just a difference. And taking that strength out into the world and challenging yourself to go into harder and harder situations in small increments is how we build that confidence. But I loved what you were talking about, because I'm actually currently, just to help me bridge the gap a little bit, but I'm working with a couple of parents who have a little 2.5-year-old who's stuttering. And the kind of things we're doing, we're not trying to teach them a way of speaking that makes them not stutter. We're giving them special time. So mom, they take turns. Dad takes some time with their little 2.5-year-old, and then mom's with the older brother, and then they switch, and each kid gets their own time, and they sit on the floor and they discuss with each other, and they follow his lead, and they don't ask too many questions. All of these things will help a child feel like they have the space to communicate. And it just sounds like a lot what your SLP, your speech therapist, taught you when your son was 3. So that totally resonates.
Yeah. Okay, so now I have another question. One of the other components about Unlearn the Crap is our central nervous system, and that how our central nervous system creates these programs that have our brain saying, you're in safety here. Is stuttering equivalent to using that is giving space for the brain to catch up to the thought process, that it's creating a space is the only thing I can think of. Am I understanding and thinking of it correctly?
I would probably caution against that particular line of thinking. We recognize stuttering as a neurodiversity. It is a normal thing that happens. It's not so much making space for thinking. There's certainly some ideas that processing speed of language might have some effect on speaking. I know especially with children, if we increase the pressure of language, we will see an increase in stuttering. And in some cases, with children especially, you will see like the I, and then I want my teddy bear or something, because they're trying to think of what they're going to say. So in that sense, yes. But for most adults who've gotten to an adult age and they're still stuttering, this is not a strategy. This is not a habit. I mean, some people talk about it like a habit. I don't think of it as a habit. It is just something that happens. Stuttering isn't caused, except in very small situations, a very minor subset of people that have had a brain injury or a stroke or a tumor or something. That very, very tiny portion, for the most part, 95% plus, is just a different way the mind works. And I think I really want to get that message across, as opposed to it being a habit or a strategy, because I don't think that will resonate with the lived experience of the people that I work with.
Okay, I'm not sure that I meant to say a habit or a strategy, because everything that the brain does it based on what works. And so, what I was thinking as I was asking that question was, if the brain has created a way of communicating that works, there's no need to learn anything else, because our brains are designed to be the most efficient vessel possible. And it's looking for the recipe to have us on autopilot. Are you breaking autopilot when you're relearning or unlearning something that no longer is empowering? Because
Now I
there are,
understand.
yeah, because what starts as everything starts as what worked in the moment. Addictions started by a coping thing that worked in the moment, and the brain goes, this is it. This is what we do. This worked, and our brain knows it worked because we're still alive. And that's all our brain cares about. Our primal brain is, am I alive? Am I breathing? Because that's all it cares about. It doesn't care about happy, healthy, wealthy, anything else. It's just looking for the recipe that says this works. Okay, now we can focus in on the other problems. This is no longer a problem. We've got the recipe.
Okay. Okay. So that makes sense to me now. And in maybe in a traditional, like back in the old days when we were hunter gatherers and we weren't communicating so much information all the time, that might have been a good brain strategy. It just didn't matter so much if you're not trying to communicate these massive amounts of data and concepts and all this kind of stuff. Here's where that broke down. For the most part, and I can't think of a culture that isn't like this, stuttering is viewed as something wrong, and especially
Yeah.
by the people that are doing it. And there is a shame associated with that. There is I'm broken, and I only can be okay if I speak a certain way. And I will do anything in my power to not seem broken in front of others. So what ends up happening is so much of the thought process goes into don't stutter, don't stutter, don't stutter, don't stutter. Don't let them see you stutter. Don't show any weakness. It even that it is weakness, it's not, but even that it is weakness is part of that programming, that self-programming. Unlearning the crap in this case is unlearning a ton of stuff that comes from trauma, from people teasing or making fun of you when you're a kid, from a parent who wanted the best for you but was really really worried and looked really concerned every time you stuttered, to a teacher. Teachers aren't even always well educated in this. I mean, I'm not dissing teachers at all. I love teachers. I've worked with teachers for years, but some adults, let's say, in the child's environment might not know that it's just a part of normal, and they are not treating these kids in a way that builds them up. So it's I'm not blaming teachers, I'm not blaming any particular adult, but these kinds of conversations where I get to talk about this and get to spread the word that this is part of normal, that's what starts to break down these judgments, these biases that we have that are not based in fact.
Love it, love it, love it. One of the things that you just said triggered what actually today's episode that will be airing on the day that you and I are recording this. And the episode is called You're Not Broken, You're Becoming. And we talk about those things that are challenging and painful and stressful. The only way that we can come out of autopilot is to have some of these things happening around us that say, pay attention, come to, make a decision. And so that stuttering sounds like it's a natural part of the becoming of the person. But when we have things like shame, and shame is the lowest vibrating emotion that exists. And it is a non-natural human emotion because it's an external judgment. It is not part of the emotion scale of fear and anger and happiness and joy, like any of the other human emotions. Shame is an external judgment. And that is another thing that hits our primal brain, because the part of our primal brain says, I must belong or I'm in danger. And so when we have these societal expectations that we're all supposed to do things the same way at the same time, and like I was saying at the beginning, become vanilla, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of shame. And that creates so much disempowerment and so much disease in our body.
Well, it's funny you should mention that, because I definitely got a disease from overstressing and feeling too much shame. At least that's where I think it came from. This last year, 3 years, I've had a divorce. I lost a beloved pet. I had a massive financial crisis. I got diagnosed with a brain tumor. I waited for surgery, got the surgery on that, recovered from that, all the while trying to build this business. Then, when I'm building my program, I started building this sort of based on the way I'd already done and always had done stuttering therapy, which was based on this speech. And I reached out to a past client who had been an amazing client, really worked hard at it, had gone from stuttering sort of moderately to severely, and was at that time speaking very, very fluently and was feeling confident out in the world doing stuff. So I checked in with him when I was building this. And I realized he looked at me through the Zoom screen and he said, James, I don't know what happened. I just started slipping back into old habits, avoiding words, avoiding speaking situations, avoiding opportunities to grow in my career. And he almost like was talking to me as if he'd let me down. And I when I heard this, there was a rock in my stomach. And I was like, I have failed this person. I have failed this person I consider a friend. And I was not able to help him in the long run. So I went on my own shame spiral just to add to all of the tumor and the divorce and the financial crisis. Now, the one thing that I had to hold on to, which was that I was a good stuttering therapist, that also crumbled. And I ended up meeting with another friend who told me, sent me down the path of looking into ableism. What is ableism? Like the idea that people who are disabled are somehow less. So like when it comes to stuttering, if you don't talk right, you're less. It's total BS. It's crap, actually. And so I went on a shame spiral thinking, now I'm a bad therapist, but instead of giving up, instead of throwing in the towel saying, I'm not going to work on this because I'm not good enough, which is what every fiber of my being was telling me to do, I was like, absolutely not. There's so few stuttering specialists compared to the amount of people who stutter in this world. And if I take my voice away, especially my voice, which is now starting to get it, then I'm doing a disservice to the world. So I had to keep going. I had to take those financial risks, and I had to put myself out there and risk people not agreeing with me and telling me I have stupid ideas or whatever it is in order to bring this message home. But people like you are letting me do that, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, well, my pleasure. Can I share my perspective on what you just shared?
Please.
I think you hit a place that I hit as well, which was you hit a level of competency and the world says, no, we need you to level up, which means you had to break down that complacency. You had to face some of some things that allowed you to look at how it could be different and better and evolve. And that what that shame spiral was, thank God you caught it. And instead said, what is the lesson from this? And how can I use it to level up? And you actually honed your message and your expertise and leveled it up into the world. Is that what happened for you? Because that's what I heard.
I'm getting chills right now, yeah, because that I literally just had them. That is the journey. And in order to make it through that journey, it wasn't just sitting at my computer working. I went traveling. I went to Nepal. I did volunteer work. I went and did this thing called Vipassana, which is a 10-day silent meditation retreat. I went to India and searched out my grandfather's home. He used to live there when I was a kid. When long before I was born, he was a tea planter in India. And then I came to Mexico and like sat with one of my friends who's kind of like my spiritual guide. And all of those things allowed me to move through the shame. It wasn't easy. And I think there's a possibility I might get some irritated people who stutter with me for saying this, but I think that this could be for some people the same thing that I needed to move through to level up. If I can help other people move through something as hard and traumatic and terrible, and I don't take away any of that, but if I can help people move through that, then I can help them level up, and who knows what they can do. And we need everybody's voice in this world. It is getting messed up and awesome at the same time. And we need the awesome to outweigh the messed up, and we'll need everybody's voice. And people who stutter are some of the voices we absolutely need.
I could not agree with you more. I believe we're in a massive paradigm shift. And our society for the last couple of thousand years, since the Dark Ages, has been on a trajectory that has taken us so far off center. And we have the rise of technology and AI and robotics that are undoing the societal structures that were built all around the Industrial Revolution, where we didn't need everyone's individual voices because it was all about conformity and replaceability and all of us being duplicatable and replaceable. And we're moving into a place that futurists are predicting that in the next 10 years, we're going to see the equivalent of the last 100 years of advancements. And what I see happening with that is if technology and AI and robotics are going to take over the manual, repetitive, laborious jobs, where does that leave us? And that leaves us as humans. That leaves us to bring the whole depth of our human experience to level up, where our love and our empathy and our compassion and our imagination and our creativity and our problem solving and our empathy, all of these things where we work in collaboration and cooperation, where one of us who is having a spiritual awakening or a difficult time or struggling, we create space and safety for them to have that in place. And we hold that space because we say, you matter. You matter, and we're going to help you through this by giving you the space and resources because we need you to level up to be your best, because your voice, your message, your gift matters.
I couldn't agree more. I think this is where we're already seeing the rise of coaching as an industry. And what is coaching? Coaching is human to human. I'm going to help you with a problem that I understand. It's not a construction or a physical job that could be replaced by computers or could be replaced by AI or robots, right? This is human to human, and this is why we're seeing a rise in it, and I think we're going to continue to see a rise in it. And the way a human can help another human is it's just not even possible to be done by AI. And there's so many things that are possible to be done by AI. I'm not I use it all day every day. I'm well vested in AI. I'm not anti AI, but I know the current limitations. Maybe that'll change. I don't know, but I don't think so. Because can I share a client story with you, which I think kind of speaks to this point that I don't think a robot. Okay,
Absolutely.
so my current client joined about a month ago. She's not even finished the program yet, but she is already just thriving. She started out a bit hesitant because she didn't know. She tried things before, being to speech therapists, and it hadn't worked out. She wanted change, but she just didn't know if it was going to work. So, but she showed up anyway. She's been showing up every day that we have a session. She shows up and she puts her full game in there. But honestly, apart from meeting with me, it's only 15 minutes a day, and her stuttering has dropped off really fast. That's only part of the process. As I say, controlling the speech is only half. But that's what steady, consistent practice can do with an evidence-based system, which has been around for a long time. The trouble that people think it doesn't work because of not having the mindset piece in there. So sometimes long term, it won't be effective if you're not also working on feeling safe, feeling grounded, feeling okay as a person who stutters. And that's the biggest shift I'm seeing in my client, her mindset. She's finally realizing she doesn't have to sound perfect, especially not with like close friends, family. And letting go of that constant pressure in the low stakes moments is exactly what's giving her the confidence to rise in the high stakes ones. And that's counterintuitive to many people who stutter, who are living in this world where they're just trying not to stutter at any time. And I think what happens, I've heard this from many clients, they worry that if they start to stutter, they won't be able to stop. Whereas I'm saying it actually kind of works in a different direction. If you allow yourself to stutter and feel okay with it with people that you are close to, you can start to feel like if you stutter in front of somebody, it's not going to throw you off. It's not going to like send you on a spiral or a snowball of stuttering. Because here's the thing. Stuttering, stumbling, it doesn't mean there's something wrong. We all trip over our words sometimes. And speech is one of the complex things that we do. We have to coordinate your brain, lungs, vocal cord, tongue, what am I forgetting? Lips, jaw, all in real time. And when there's a breakdown, we think it's a problem.
Yeah.
And
one of the things I love about these different conversations is that even though your particular expertise is on speech pathology and focus in stuttering, is that we have these life lessons that we can apply for so many other circumstances. And so while you were talking about being given permission to not be this polished, perfect ideal of the crap we've been taught that it has to be. One of the other things that we were taught was don't show your emotions. And we were not taught that our emotions are our information. And so for me, for example, when I get really passionate about something, I tend to cry or I laugh. And these are nervous system things that happen that our body is bringing us back into homeostasis, back into a state of rhythm. But it's that acceptance that, yes, I may get emotional and I may have a tear come, but that's okay because that's how I'm living in alignment of my authenticity, and that it's okay to be open and vulnerable. Is that what your client is getting? The message that she's okay just like she is?
Yes. And I'm not saying that she's going to go out and like go to a job interview and stutter through it or make a presentation. She might use her skills for that. But at other times, friends, family, even coworkers that she's closer with, it's not such a big deal to let one out once in a while. And if you're living in this place where you can't ever let one out, then the fear actually builds up because there's no evidence of stuttering and someone not reacting to it, just being like, whatever. And as we spread the word, as the National Stuttering Association does its thing, as more people watch things like my masterclass and start to realize what stuttering really is and what it isn't, the more the need to constantly protect ourselves goes down, and we can show our flawed selves, and there's so much real connection comes from showing that. I've had conversations with others, and because we have a vulnerable conversation like this, the camera turns off, and then we have a really close connection, and I've started to build relationships with people. Podcasting isn't just about, here's my thing, try and sell it. It's like, here, like creating relationships, spreading the word, being a part of this movement that is moving us towards what you were talking about as a society, people changing the world. I know I'm excitable, but it's real.
Oh, well, that was the whole reason that we decided to immediately capture this, because I wanted that passion and I wanted that excitement that is coming out of you. I'm going to share a story that I just recently saw. Okay. Part of the crap that I needed to unlearn was this thing that I had in my head. The bodily functions were not acceptable. It turned out it came from a joke. My mother, my whole growing up life, would say things like, "I'm so perfect that I don't even have bodily functions." And she would say it in the voice, right? So it was so sarcastic. It was so dramatic. It was so anything. But in my head, I had taken that if I have bodily functions, that I'm not perfect and there's something wrong with me. And I created disease. Well, I recently saw a video on one of the social medias. And this woman was in a gym and she was in the women's bathroom, and there was a couple of women in the stalls, and one of the women let out a massive fart, a big gas in it. And all of a sudden she said, you could feel the energy in the bathroom. And a woman beside her, in solidarity, let out a fart. And the woman who was at the sink said it was such a moment of saying, it's okay. It's okay. You do not need to be ashamed that you had a bodily function. It's okay. You're in a safe place. And as you were talking about this acceptance of not having this plastic version of who we're supposed to be, that story came into my mind. And that's why if you saw me break out into a smile, it was because part of the way I work is I get stories that come to me. And so I trust when the universe is giving me something that seems totally unrelated, that I need to share it. That's what that was about.
I know. I love it. I love it. You use the word acceptance, and I'm in a lot of stuttering support groups online, and just to lay the finger on the pulse, so to speak. And I have mentioned stuttering acceptance and got some pretty serious blowback. And the blowback is being like, I don't want to accept this. I want to speak fluently. I don't accept this. And I just want to speak to those people because I think when I talk about acceptance, I'm not saying passive acceptance. I'm not saying resignation. I'm not saying that you should just accept it. You're good enough as you are. Just go ahead and stutter and it doesn't matter and you're fine. And that's dismissive is what that is. What I am
Yes.
saying but yeah, it's dismissive of all of the things people have been through, all the trauma they've lived through, everything that they've gone through. And I'm just saying, oh, it's not a big deal. That is not what I'm saying. When I talk
Good.
about acceptance, I am talking about accepting oneself,
Yeah.
accepting one's own humanity. And if you wish to change an aspect of yourself, you can, but do it from a loving place for yourself. Self love looked at the way we look at a child. Well, you don't love your kid because they get good grades. You don't love your kid because they're a pretty kid. You don't love your kid because they keep their room clean, right? Those are things
Well,
they do.
that's conditional.
Sorry?
That's conditional. That's conditional love.
Exactly. Most parents love their kid just because they're their kid. And that kind of love. Or you love your dog just because they're your dog. Even when they poop on the floor, you can still love the dog, right? Love if
Unconditional.
we unconditional love and we can accept ourselves. And that's the kind of acceptance I'm talking about. And the way I get there in my program is acceptance and commitment therapy, which is all about it's got a lot of stuff to do with accepting what is. And you're gonna have thoughts. You're gonna have thoughts about stuttering, especially if you're a person who stutters. They're not gonna necessarily be positive. And the point is not to suppress those thoughts or get rid of those thoughts. It's to observe those thoughts and realize that you don't have to believe them. We
Yeah.
always have random thoughts.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're true.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have dark thoughts, we have light thoughts, we have random thoughts. But they're fleeting. They come and they go. It's only what we put our focus on that matters. And I want to draw a connection to what you were talking about with acceptance in forgiveness, because so many times people say, I can only forgive if that didn't happen. But getting to forgiveness is saying, I accept it didn't happen. I accept it was bad, or it didn't work, or whatever it was. I accept that was my reality, and I let it go. I choose to cut the ties of disempowerment to that. And that's what forgiveness is. So if we can get to a place of personal forgiveness, which in my own personal healing journey was the most difficult thing I had to do, was look in my own eyes and say, I forgive you for not being perfect. I forgive myself for letting myself down. I forgive myself for betraying myself. And if we can get to a place of acceptance, free of judgment, of unconditional love, if we can get to a place of true self-love, self-acceptance, self-forgiveness, free of judgment, where we beat ourselves up for not meeting this ridiculous externally imposed upon ideal of what we are supposed to be, and we just accept we are perfect just the way we are.
I love this. I love this sentiment.
Well, I think we've come to a perfect place for me to ask James, for those people who are listening and they're looking for coach, mentor, support, because we all need help. And the greatest point of strength is accepting that I need help in this and asking for it. How do you serve, and how can they find you?
Well, currently I'm serving using an online coaching service, so you can do it from the comfort and privacy of your own home. We're all about getting people together, working on stuttering together. And I think the best way is to start by watching the masterclass. It's only 19 minutes. It's called Discover the Three-Step System that helps professionals and entrepreneurs who stutter to speak with conviction so they can confidently stand out in meetings, impress clients, and go after their goals without constantly worrying about their speech. So if that resonates with you, or even if you're not a professional and you just want to reach out and check out the masterclass, that'll send you to a link, and maybe you can put this link to book a time with me. It's always free to talk to me at first. I just want to get to know people and see if they're a good fit, if they're ready for this, because it's a very personal journey, and I am not going to pressure anyone to start it. But if you invite me to work with you, I'd be honored.
Oh, I love that. James, thank you for your ability to go with the flow and capture the passion and excitement of our conversation and meet with me today. Thank you for your passion in helping others step into their zone of genius and remove any of the roadblocks that are in their way through their speech so that they can find their voice. Because I believe with all of my heart and being that every single one of us is here for a reason, that we all matter, and that it is when we step into our zone of genius and we accept where we need help and we're being challenged and we reach out and we work together in collaboration and cooperation, that we're going to create the world that the world is calling for. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you for having me.
Until next time, remember to challenge everything so that you can accomplish anything. You matter, your voice matters, and the world is waiting for you to level up. Make sure to subscribe, share, comment, share a review, and continue to join us on Unlearn the Crap and Level Up Your Soul is Calling. My name is Kathy Baldwin, and I thank you for being with us. Thank you for joining me on this episode of The Unlearning Curve. I hope you enjoyed it. If something landed for you today, make sure to follow, like, comment, and share, and check out all the other full interviews and other episodes of Unlearn the Crap and Level Up podcast, where you'll find deeper conversations, expert guests, and real stories from people just like you who are unlearning their crap and choosing clarity. Visit me at kathybaldwin.me and get all my free resources. Check out my coaching programs as well as my books. Until next time, keep showing up, keep unlearning, and keep leveling up, because your soul is calling.